Hello, writer. Welcome back to Writing While Distracted. I'm Brenda Murphy, your neurospicy writing coach, and today we're going to dive into how to carve out some space in your overwhelmed brain. If you're neurodivergent, burnt out, wondering how the hell you're supposed to keep writing when the world feels like a tornado, firestorm, hurricane of a disaster, stay tuned because this episode is for you. It's really hard to create when the world just won't stop screaming. Every day, there's something else. War, money problems, politics, social media disasters, apocalyptic headlines. And the expectation is that somehow we're supposed to sit down and write like our brains aren't totally on fire with all of the input that is out there. And in this time, as I touched on with my last podcast about how to keep writing when the world's on fire, it is most important to stay in touch with our creativity. Your creativity matters. Your voice matters. And words have power. And your words have power even when you feel powerless. It is not unique that some of the most amazing art ever created and some of the most amazing stories that have ever been created have been created in the midst of massive upheaval in society. And I know I probably sound like a broken record about this because I just did the recent episode on how to write when you want to burn it all down. But this episode is a little different because today we're going to talk about how to protect yourself and also how to fill that creative well so that when you come to the page, you can put some words down on the page. Neurospicy folks, neuroatypical folks, wherever you fall, if you're on the spectrum, if you have ADD, if you have other mental health issues, we are particularly susceptible to our environment. Not that anybody is probably coping as well as they could be right now, no matter where you fall on that scale. Everyone is stressed. Everyone is touched by what is going on around us. So this is my suggestions. I've got 5 things that I'm going to talk about today to help you find your creative space again, to help you slow down without giving up your writing. Please don't quit. I know it feels like it may feel to you that what you're doing is foolish, that you should be doing something more, that there should be something tangible that you're doing. And I would submit that creating, whether you're creating stories or poetry or art, whatever it is that you're doing, making a beautiful meal for your family, making your home cozy without spending a lot of money, that's an art too and a talent, and give yourself credit for those things. But because this is a show about writing and writers, I'm going to focus on that right now. And because, friend, and I hope you are my friends, I feel like you are, I feel like I'm talking to friends. In the past, you may have been someone who had a very dependable writing schedule. That was me. For years, I had a rock solid writing habit. I had morning words. I had post-work writing sprints. I wrote pages upon pages upon pages. And the first 5 or 6 years of my career as a writer, I was putting out 3 books a year, in addition to taking care of 2 small children and being home and house and parents and all of the other things. And then some things happened in our personal life. We lost my brother-in-law. I lost my aunt. The pandemic. All of those things conspired to disrupt that rock-solid, dependable schedule. And it took a lot of soul-searching, and it took a lot of time for me to realize that my writing had very much become caught up in this myth of productivity. Like I had this idea that if I was staying home and creating and taking care of the kids and all the other stuff, that I needed to produce a certain amount of work in order to be respectable, responsible, fill in whatever word that my own brain was putting in there, that I was actually doing something besides creating. And that has a lot to do with those goblin voices in our heads that suggest that creativity is not a viable career. And if you're wondering, if you have any questions about that at all, I'm going to point you in the direction of Aime McNee's work, We Need Your Art, because that book is amazing. And if you are struggling right now to continue creating, I would really advise you to pick that book up and read it, get it from your library, buy it, wherever you can get your hands on a copy. It is well worth your time. So, what did I do when I was having those problems and my brain felt like it was fried, like absolutely fried? And I would stare at the screen and think, how do I keep going? Does it even matter anymore? And this was particularly problematic when I was struggling with grief, which is that could be its own podcast. And it may be how to keep writing through grief. Because I do think that creativity, when you're grieving, can be an absolute balm to those times when you're hurting. And I think a lot of us may be grieving right now, even if we're not verbalizing that. We are grieving the past times when things felt a little simpler, or maybe they felt a little easier. And not that I think that, not that I think that anything in the last, I don't know, ever since I've been a grown up has been particularly easy. But we do sometimes reminisce about times in our lives where things didn't feel so fraught. And what I've been trying to do with these 5 tips is offer you a way back into that space where things didn't feel quite so fraught, where it didn't feel like if you stepped out your front door, the world was going to fall in on your head. And a lot of that, I think, again, when you're neurospicy, you are always dealing with the things that are going on in your own head without any add-on from the world. And so when you start piling all of those other things that are going on in your head, and those can be negative voices, those can be, as I call we all have that inner critic. I like to call that my inner troll, that person, that nasty voice that's in your head that says, quit screwing around and get a real job instead of wasting your time at the computer. And I think there are a lot of people that write that often have a battle with that troll. So here's some ways to put the lid on that voice and get your head back into a writing habit. And this doesn't have to be thousands of words a day. I'm saying set the bar low here. 100 words, 50 words, opening the document and making some notes. It all counts. Okay? It all counts. So don't hold yourself up to some crazy amount of words that are produced. When you read about other writers' schedules, like, oh, they write 2,000 words a day. Oh, they write 3,000 words a day. You don't know what's going on in their personal life. Maybe they have someone else in their life who takes care of all of the other things. I'm going to bet that if you're listening to this, you're probably like a regular old person, just like me. I have to take care of all the other things in my life. In addition to all the things in my life, I have other people I have to take care of and pets and things like that. In the real world, yes, there are some people who manage to create volumes and volumes and volumes of words. There are also those of us who peck along 500 words at a time, 1,000 words at a time, 100 words at a time to get our stories out. And you know what? The stories still get out. It's not a race. It's not a contest. Writing is a marathon. So let's get into these tips. So my first tip, before you do any consuming of the world, and by that I mean checking your Facebook, checking your Twitter, or whatever it's called now, X, checking the news, checking the headlines, create before you consume. And I'm going to say that again. I feel like this is my most important tip. If you don't take anything else away from this podcast, create before you consume. Before you let the world in, create. And if that means you've only got 15 minutes in the morning between when you wake up and when you have to be out the door or eat breakfast or whatever, take that 15 minutes. You can get a lot done in 15 minutes, seriously. When I wake up, my kids are older and they take care of getting themselves to school, and I pretty much just have to monitor how things are going time-wise. So I don't have little kids to get out the door. And if you still have little kids that you have to get out the door, or even older kids that you need to get out the door, You may need to get up a little earlier or stay up a little later. And then it's when it's hard. Creating before you consume, if you have to get up early to do it, it may not work for you. If you're trying to do it after work, it's really difficult because you've had all day long to have all of the world pile in on your brain and pile in on top of you. But if there is any way you can eke out some time to create before you consume, to just let it all, it'll be there. Trust me, all of that bad stuff will be there when you finish your words for the day. I get up, have my tea, sit down, and get to work. And yes, am I half awake? Yes, do I sometimes go back later and look at my words and go, what the heck was I trying to write? But eventually my brain gets in gear and I'm able to get things down on paper that makes sense. But in taking that 15 minutes for myself, and a lot of times it's only 15 minutes, sometimes it's a half an hour, sometimes I get lucky and it's a whole hour. But a lot of times it's 15 minutes, which means I set my stuff up the night before so that when I sit down, I know what it is I'm working on. So if you're a poet, if you're a writer, if you're a painter, whatever it is you're doing, take that time before the world gets in your brain and use that for your own creative good. Take that time when your brain is still fresh, when you've woken up, when you're trying to get started for the day, when you haven't had all of the negative things that are out there come into your life or the drama on Facebook. The other thing that I'm going to encourage you to do is to turn off your phone. Set it to do not disturb. You can set it so that if someone calls you twice in succession for most phones, it will let them through the second time. So I tell people that are important in my life, if you need to get in touch with me, if it is a certain time of day, call me twice. It'll ring through the second time. This works. I've used it. The power of having it off, of knowing that you're unavailable, is something that for a lot of creatives is just so missing in our lives. That time to dream and be in our own heads and see and hear our stories so we can get them out on paper, that time is so precious. Don't give it away to things that really don't warrant your attention. If you can't do anything immediately to fix a problem, I would submit that it is okay to take time to take care of your creative needs before you do the other things. And that's why if you can do this first thing in the morning and have it done, you can go back later. If you've got more creative ideas, go back later. But by doing the most important thing to you first, if at all possible, try it. Get it in there. But create before you consume, before you're distracted, before the world intrudes upon your vision. There are very few people in your life that need 24/7 access to you other than your family and maybe some dear friends. And if that's the case, those are the people that you can tell about your times that you want to be quiet to write, that you want to have this time to be in your own head. And hopefully those people will be supportive and understanding. I know with kids it can take a bit. My kids were very little when I started my career, and I had a lot of little signs that were on the door that listed out when they could bother me. When they were very little babies, I worked with them in the room. That's all I could do because they were too tiny to be by themselves. And if they were taking naps, then it was time for me to do my work, which doesn't work if you are one of those people that needs to take naps when your kids are napping, which when they were very wee babies, I napped when they napped. But as they got older, and I was able to help them understand when they were home from school and I was working that this was my time to work. And what has that got to do with the tips here? So the tips number 2 is to set boundaries with people that you love. Set those boundaries. This is my work time. I really want to listen to you. I really want to play with you. I really want to talk with you. But I need this little bit of time for me so that I don't lose my mind. And I say that as someone who is a creative and someone who is also neurospicy, that I get absolutely agitated in a deep, unsettled way if I don't have time to create. And I have a number of different things that I create. In addition to writing, I, do collage, paint, watercolor, draw. All of those things help me to process all of the stuff that goes on in my head. And a lot of what goes on in my head is hard. Anybody that's dealing with PTSD, complex PTSD, other mental health issues, there are many, many, many studies that show that art and being creative, and it doesn't, and I'm not talking art with a capital A here. A lot of times I'm talking art with a small a. I'm talking art that is just for you, goofing around with glue and scissors and tape and paint and crayons and watercolors and all the things that you used to let yourself do when you were a kid to get those feelings and thoughts out of your head. It's okay to do those things, and it's okay to set boundaries around that. Now, if your way of getting those things out of your head is writing, which for me, a large part of that is for me. I work through a lot of stuff for writing. A lot of writers do. That's how we process the world, is our words. Setting boundaries with your kids, setting boundaries with people you love, setting boundaries with items that distract you, setting news boundaries, setting email boundaries. Boundaries help you be what you want it to be. And I know that probably sounds really weird and new agey or complicated, but being able to state clearly what you need to other people will often go a long way to avoiding those angry outbursts when you're so frustrated because all you want to do is have a few minutes in your head to write. That's what I'm talking about here. Create those boundaries. Let yourself give yourself permission to say to people, I need this time to write. I need this time to cut collage. I need this time for myself. And even if it's 15 minutes, 15 minutes is a lot longer than you think it is. And I'm going to challenge you out there that if you think it's not, the next time you're frustrated and you say to somebody, I need 15 minutes to myself, go in a room, turn your timer on for 15 minutes and just feel how long that is. You don't even have to do anything during that 15 minutes. But a lot of times 15 minutes is long enough for you to take a breath and actually get some things done. And again, I'm not talking about writing 1,000 words in 15 minutes. I'm not even talking about writing 500 words in 15 minutes. But maybe you can write 100 words in 15 minutes. Maybe you can write 150. Maybe you can just sit there and plot out the next steps for your book, or just think. And a lot of times when creatives are super frustrated and angry and agitated, particularly if we're neurospicy, we're agitated because we have so many things in our head that we can't get out. And so taking that time to get those things out of your head will go a long way to improving relationships, not only with your families and your friends and loved ones, but with yourself. Because one of the things that I find myself doing, and you probably find yourself doing, is you should all over yourself. I should be this, I should do that, I should do the other thing. Don't do that. Don't beat yourself up. The world wants to do that for you. So step back from that. Give yourself the space. Set those boundaries for yourself. That's you saying to yourself, I respect me as a creative, and this is my boundary. So that's tip number 2. You don't even have to use that time to put words on paper. Maybe you want to take that 15 minutes to take a walk around the block or around your house or out in your garden, or just to sit quietly with a cup of tea. Maybe that's all you need. But set those boundaries in place. Do it. Now, tip 3 goes into the boundary setting. Get unplugged. And just like I said, turn the phone off, unplug yourself. Set a timer for yourself around when you are going to stop consuming news, social media, anything that doesn't fulfill you in a positive way. And by that, I mean, if you want to scroll through photos that you've taken on a trip, or read a book, or any of those other things that's positive, that fills you up, go for a walk, spend time in your garden, do that unplugged. Now, you're saying, I can't go for a walk without my phone because I need to be able to call if I fall down or if there's something bad going on. Totally get that. I totally get that. So what I'm going to say to you is, take your ear pods out. Don't walk and listen to a podcast, even this one. Go quietly, Put your phone either in a pocket or a bag or someplace that you have it on your person. So if you do fall down, because those things happen and you might need to call someone to help you if there was an incident, put your phone where you can get it, but don't fill your head with other people's words and thoughts and events while you're walking. Listen to your own head. Listen to what's going on in there. Now, for some people, they're like, oh, my head's so messed up, I don't want to listen to what's going on in there. I would submit if you spend some time listening, those voices, and I sound probably totally off the wall here, but anyone who has a very busy mind, a lot of ADHD people, a lot of people on the spectrum, there are a lot of us that have a large amount of internal dialogue that's going on at all the time in our heads. And learning how to just let that go and filter it and let it go to get it out. Listen to your brain and just be in the moment. This is something that before the internet, before pocket computers and our phones and all of the things, it was a lot easier to just be, to just exist in the moment, to let yourself be bored. I've never been bored in my life because, again, there's always an internal dialogue. But if you're one of those people that get bored, boredom is often the trigger to creativity. It gives your brain a chance to relax and process what's going on and come up with innovative, creative ideas, things that you want to do. Taking time to listen to yourself unplugged. Don't doom scroll, don't flip through YouTube, don't do all those things. Give yourself a chance to be unplugged. And if you don't feel like walking, if you're tired, sit in a chair and stare at a wall or a picture that you really like, or, take some time, dare I say it, to meditate. Now, I will tell you, walking meditation is the only kind of meditation that works for me because I can't sit still. And that is a function of the H in my ADHD. I honestly get twitchy sitting still, and I'm sure a lot of you do too, because it doesn't feel right in our bodies. But walking meditation, walking around and just being in the moment and observing my neighborhood or observing things around me, doing those things unplugged makes such a huge difference. So that's tip number 3. Unplug yourself. Figure out a way to let yourself breathe and be in the moment and have a sensory rest. Because the thing that happens with being plugged in all the time, with everything calling our attention from all the notifications and all of the craziness that's going on in the world, it's demanding our attention, and that is exhausting us. So back off from that. Step back. If you're someone who regularly checks themselves out at parties, and you know who I'm talking to, because we've all been there, you're at a party, you're fine at first, and then a lot of people come, and then it gets really loud, and you're like, whoop, I got to go home now. Because you're overstimulated, the world is like a huge, giant party right now. So many voices clamoring for your attention. Let that go. Step back, close the door, and let yourself have a sensory reset. Have a quiet space. Tip number 4. I am taking this from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, and it's a classic for creatives for a reason. If you haven't read The Artist's Way, I highly recommend getting it, reading it, doing the program. It is so worthwhile, and I can honestly say that there's some books you read that change your life. That book changed my life massively when I read it when it first came out. And I made so many decisions based on the encouragement that I received from doing that book, reading that book, and doing that program. So one of the things that she has you do is 3 pages by longhand in the morning. They're called morning pages. Now, here's a tip. I worked nights at the time. And if morning pages for me would have actually been evening pages, which if you've ever worked nights, you know how turned around you can get. So I did my morning pages actually in the evening, and I found them just as effective. The point is, it's 3 pages written longhand about whatever is in your head. and just dump it all out on the page. What I found doing it before I went to sleep at night or in the morning, I'd be doing them in the morning, even though they were evening for me. What I found by doing these pages is that having had that opportunity to dump out whatever garbage was floating around in my head, it let me sleep really, really well. So all of those things that you were thinking about or worried about or concerned about or just wanted to whine on the page about, and let's face it, sometimes we like to whine, we want to complain, we want to fuss. And what a better place to do that than on the page. And you don't have to keep these pages. Get a really cheap notebook, get a really cheap pen, scrawl. Don't worry if you can go back and read your notes, although sometimes if you can read your notes, you will find gold in mining those pages, especially if the same stuff comes up time and time and time again. Maybe it's like, oh, I'm always complaining about X. What could I do to fix X? And that's just an example. Or if a story idea keeps popping up, or if a creative or a painting idea or whatever it is that keeps popping up or shows up in your morning pages, you can use that. Now, I have really horrible handwriting. Could I read a lot of my morning pages / evening pages afterwards? No, I couldn't. But it was the process of just feeling like whatever garbage was floating around in my head was then out on the paper, allowed me to sleep a lot better. And if you do them in the morning before you get to work, if you're having anxiety about leaving the house, going to work, what's going on with schools, what's going on with your kids, what's going on with your partner, whatever it is, getting that anxiety out, that garbage out before you go to work also can help you can have a better day at work. So whichever time you choose to do morning pages / evening pages, take a chance and do them. What's the worst that happens? Say you do them for 30 days and you absolutely hate it and you think it's garbage and it was a waste of your time. You've only wasted the time and the pages and whatever you used of a cheap ink pen. And I really believe in a cheap notebook, cheap ink pen. If you've got an old notebook lying around that's half full, use that. It doesn't matter. What matters is you get that stuff out of your head to make way for the better stuff that's there. Give yourself a chance. Do it for 30 days. Do it for 3 pages. Do it daily. Not to write for anyone, not to be productive, just to clear out that mental clutter. All right? Now, tip number 5, give yourself a break. Your productivity may not be what it used to be. Mine isn't. I average about 1 book a year now. And that's okay. The world is heavier right now. Brain fog is real, whether it's a result of dealing with long-term health issues or chronic health issues or the world at large or just our general neural atypia, mental health issues. It doesn't matter why that fog is happening. It's real, it's there, and we're working to try and clear it. That's what I hope some of these tips will do, is help you kind of work through that fog. It's okay if you're writing fewer words. It's okay if you're taking more breaks. It's not failure, it's adjustment. It's adjustment to whatever what is, and this is in quotes, a normal, because who knows what normal is anymore, right? It's adjustment to what's going on in your life at the moment, and making adjustments and dealing with them is what allows you to have a creative career. In my next podcast, I'm going to talk about creative resilience, and that is a huge part of a creative career. But right now we're talking about longevity and making adjustments, whether they're big adjustments or small adjustments, adjusting to the world as it is versus how it used to be is what is going to allow you to continue to create in this turbulent moment in time. You are not a machine. You are a human being. You are a creative human, and you are doing your best in a very difficult time. It's okay to be slower. It's okay to be quieter, but don't stop. Please don't stop, because I know deep down that creatives have this burning desire to create. It's what keeps us going, and stifling that does us harm. It does us so much harm on a soul deep level to not create when you have that urge to create, when you stifle it, when you push it down, when you let the world put a lid on that creative box. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Take care of yourself. You need to create. It centers you, it heals you, and it reminds you of who you are. And if you've been away from it a while, and if you feel off center, so many times what's off center is giving yourself the time to create, to write, to do the things that you want to do for yourself. If you're a beginner writer and you're thinking about starting writing, write. Just start. Just put those words either into the computer or on a page or on the back of a note card or on the back of your hand. I don't care where you write, but get those words out of your head and on the paper. Give us your stories. Stories help us make sense out of a world that doesn't make sense many times. In our lives, in the world at large, stories help us, and they always have helped us. So turn off your phone, create before you consume, limit the noise, take a walk, dump the junk out of your head, and give yourself some grace. Hold on to that attention that you've been giving to everyone else and pour it into your work, into your art, into your truth, because you deserve that. And the world needs what only you can say. So until next time, stay tuned, stay inspired, and keep going. We need your voice. Thanks for tuning in to Writing While Distracted, where we navigate the windy roads of creativity amidst the chaos of distraction. If you've enjoyed this podcast and found it useful, please share it and tag me. DM me and let me know what you found most useful. Please leave a review. It really helps get the podcast in front of more folks. And remember, in the dance between focus and diversion, every stumble is a step closer to mastering the art of writing. Join us next time as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the writer's mind. Until then, keep writing, keep wandering, and embrace the distractions that fuel your creativity. Stay tuned, stay inspired.